Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to be doing a video handover on this Dethleffs Advantage. So the Advantage is a A-Class motorhome and we're based on the 2.3 litre turbo diesel Fiat Ducato chassis. It's a right-hand drive, and what I'll do first is I'll run you through under the bonnet, then I'll walk you around the outside, and then we'll jump inside and go through all that stuff afterwards. So because it's an A-Class, you have got this slightly unusual bonnet layout here. For an A-Class, I will say this is actually a pretty decent accessibility. A lot of the A-Classes are nearly impossible to get to anything, but this one's not too bad. So on the left-hand side, we've got your washer fluid just here with the blue cap. Coolant at the front with the pink fluid. We've got your brake fluid just there at the back. Just behind the coolant here is your power steering fluid. You've got your engine oil dipstick just here and your engine oil filling point. Over on the right hand side, if you wanted to jump start the vehicle, you've got a positive terminal just here underneath this little plastic cap and an earthing point just here at the front. So that is your two jump starting terminals. Air filter sits in this little box down here, a little circular box. And that is about it really for under the bonnet. A little bit tight with this van next to me, so I have to bear with me a little bit. But as we open up the passenger side door, you'll notice inside you have got your bonnet release handle just there on the right. So if you want to open up your bonnet, that is where you go from. And on the actual door itself, you've got an electric window switch there as well. Just down to the right of that, we've got your diesel filling point just here. So diesel, actually labelled diesel there, so that you don't get it mixed up with the one behind it just here, which is your fresh water filling point. So the black one here with the blue cap, which is on the floor at the moment, is your fresh water. And the one closest to the front of the van is your diesel filling point. Okay, so next locker is your toilet cassette locker. So this is a Thetford toilet cassette. So to remove the cassette, we lift up on the little orange handle here, and then we can pull the cassette all the way out. To empty the cassette out, we twist this little handle round and drain it out from here. When you're actually physically draining it out, you need to be holding down on this little orange button at the back. And once you've completely emptied it out, you put your blue fluid back inside here. About a cap's worth of the blue fluid goes back in, and then you give it a little swoosh around and push it all the way back in. Make sure that your little orange tab here goes over the little catch, which it has done, and that means it must be definitely locked in. Right, just below that, you've got your wastewater drain off point. So we've got this little handle here, which has been sort of 3D printed. Quite a nice little thing. And all you do is you put it onto this little this little square pole that comes out here, and you twist it left or right, depending on whether you want to open it or close it. So the water will actually come out from here, but that is your waste drain off point. And I'm going to leave this in the glove box in the front. Right, so the little vent just here towards the back of the van that says Truma on it, that is the vent for your boiler. So that's your heating and hot water. So if you've got that lit up on gas, or working at all really, you should feel some warm air coming out through the bottom of here, and that will just basically tell you that it's definitely working or not working. So in this particular layout, you do get a really, really good sized garage. So the garage starts just here. Now on this near side, you do have the gas locker. So you can see, you can still get to the garage here on the right hand side of this, but the gas locker sits inside here to save space on the rest of the van. So inside the locker, you have got space in here for two 13 kilo propane bottles if you should want them. So that's the maximum size of bottle you can have in this locker. For our sort of testing purposes and doing a habitation check, you cannot have anything in this locker that isn't gas or gas bottle related. So you can have gas spanners in here, you can have, spare hoses perhaps, but you can't just go filling this up with stuff. The main reason for that is you've got a couple of dropout holes here on the floor, so that if you have a gas leak, the gas can actually get out through those dropout holes. And if you cover those up, you're going to end up getting gas coming into the vehicle and causing some problems. So you need to make sure that you leave that empty apart from the bottles and the hoses and things. Other than that, the regulator over on the left hand side, you don't have to do anything with that. You just leave that alone. The little valve on the front of it is just for our testing purposes, so you don't have to do anything with that. To turn the bottle on, we go anti-clockwise around to the left, and I always recommend to go all the way on, and then when you come back to the van to turn it off, you can't go wrong because you can only go one way anyway. So all the way on, anti-clockwise round to the left, and then when you want to turn it off, you go all the way around to the right clockwise. So I'm going to leave that on for a minute because I've got the fridge lit up on gas at the moment, and so I can show you it working inside. Not much else to show you on that near side. Bodywork on this particular vehicle is absolutely second to none. I cannot tell you, I mean, even on the video, it doesn't really do it much justice, but the bodywork is unbelievable on here. Can't fault it at all. You know, we've given it a little hand polish around, but this is pretty much how we got it in. So it's been looked after so well. Back of the van is exactly the same. So we've got the 2-bike rack, reversing camera at the top just there as well, and tow bar on this particular model. This is just the other side of the garage, so I very rarely open those up. It's just literally storage in there. So up top, we've got the full-size wind-out awning. Now this has been wound out and checked and lubricated as part of the habitation check, so you can rest assured that's all working properly. Same goes for the bodywork on this side, to be honest. Absolutely phenomenal all the way around, even down to things like the windows. A lot of the time, because these are slightly bulbous, these will be sort of a little bit scratched and things like that, but these are absolutely lovely, so can't fault it at all. So the first thing I need to show you on this side is going to be the electric hookup. So you can see there I've got the hookup plugged in at the moment, just so that I can show you a few bits working inside. These two vents just here are both to do with your fridge. So if you had to get to the back of the fridge for any reason, it's normally more so for us if we've got to service a fridge or, you know, find some issues. That's more so for us. But if you ever needed to, that's where those two vents are for the fridge. So the step is an electronic step, so you can press this button just here and it will bring the step in and out. The water just there, by the way, is where I spilt some water as I got in, so don't worry about that. You have got a little door retainer just here to stop this habitation door flying around if you've got it all the way open. And that is about it really for the outside. So what I'll do now is I shall jump in, and what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to show you through the cab first. I'm going to show you how to use this table in a minute as well, because we have replaced it for a different style of table, so that one that you can actually lower and bring back up again, so you can adjust it. So in the cab, you've got a really nice high spec in here. So you've got a couple of things to point out. So you've got the 6-speed manual gearbox. You've got the cruise control function on this little lower stalk just here. You've got the air conditioning switch, which is this one just here on the little heater controls. Because of the age of the vehicle, you have got this newer style heater section. It used to just be a couple of dials, but this is more of like a digital screen style of thing. I believe the reversing camera is wired up to your center console just there, your screen, so it should come on just there when you put it into reverse. You can lock and unlock the cab from just here, these two little buttons here, and you've obviously got your hazard warning lights from here as well. So you've got some storage up top just here. Some people don't realise that that's a storage locker, so I always like to point that out. And then you've got your main storage locker down here in there. So I'm just going to shove that wastewater handle in there. Okay, so just going to jump into the back again. So when we want to raise and lower this table here, all right, so what I've done is I've basically kept the original tabletop here, the actual table itself, and changed the leg that it sits on. So if we have a little look underneath, you'll see you've got this cable here, All right, and this cable basically attaches to a little handle on the right hand side. I've put that here so that you can kind of grab hold of the table like this and just pull on this handle. It's really, really easy. So when you pull on that handle, if it's not all the way up like it is at the moment, it will push itself up. Okay, so that's your handle for holding down whilst you push the table down, and for releasing to bring the table back up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the table to a position where I know that it will miss these cushions here. So I'm just going to slide it over a little bit and pull it over towards me. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull on this little handle here over to the right until it stops, just like that. And now I can't move this table left or right or forwards or backwards. So that's locked in position now that I've pulled this little handle up. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have to put the phone down just for a second whilst I push this down. But basically, I'm going to squeeze this handle and then I'm going to push down on the table. So if I just do that quickly. So that is the table in its lowest position. And that is how you would kind of make up this little single/double bed in the front. Okay, so you'd have to use all these cushions up and all that sort of stuff to make this bed up. But that's how you get this table to sit in this gap. So if I just show you now, if I put my hand down here, I can really easily find that little handle here. It's just here in my hand. And when I squeeze on this, I can bring the table all the way back up. So then from there, if I wanted to adjust the table again, I pull this handle back to the middle and I can then adjust the table to wherever I want it to go. Okay. Lock it back in position, and that's it. So, TV sits up here in this little hidden cupboard. So the first thing I'm going to run you through is going to be this sort of control panel area. So this is going to be the kind of the brain of the vehicle where you're going to sort of turn things on from and all that. So over on the left-hand side, we have got your 12-volt switch, which is basically your main 12-volt isolator. So that's the one that's going to be telling that all of the lights and anything that runs from 12-volt power, anything that runs from the leisure battery is going to need this 12-volt switch to be on. All of these switches here in the middle are your level indicators. So if I press on this button just here, you can see you've got a 12-volt battery symbol and it's in the front. So that means your engine battery. So if I press on that, it comes up telling us that the engine battery is absolutely full to the brim with power. If I press the next one here, this little button in the middle, that tells us the leisure battery voltage. Same again, full power, and it's just telling us how many amps are being drawn from it. Not many, as in nothing at all really at the moment. Next one over is our fresh water level and wastewater level. So if I press on this button here, comes up telling us we've got 0 in the fresh tank and 0 in the waste tank. It's flashing red at us because really to be able to use anything in the vehicle, we need to have some water in the fresh tank. So it's just saying you should probably fill that back up. Now, the reason that ours is completely empty right now is because it's getting really cold outside and we've winterized it so that it doesn't freeze up. So we've drained all the water out basically. Now, if you want to drain the water out of this vehicle, underneath this seat just here is where the fresh water tank sits. And inside the tank, there'll be a bung. Okay, just literally pop the bung out like it is at the moment, and then you'll be able to drain all the fresh water out. Alternatively, if you want to do it a different way, you can do it from the boiler drain, which I'll explain to you in just a minute, which is down there in this lower locker. But I'll explain that to you shortly. So these two switches here above it is the internal and external temperatures. So we're inside at the moment, so it's not too bad. I will say, to be honest with you, I think that temperature there, that 18, 19, the internal temperature, I think that's a little bit high. Let's see what our, let's see what this one says. Okay. I mean, it's probably a little bit high, but anyway, I'll go through and explain that in a bit more detail in a minute. Right, so internal and external temperatures just there. All right. This little button over here, the slipped my mind what that button does. The one that says res there. That is, well, that'd be a reserve switch. It's probably a tank heater. Now I will have to double check that with the guy that did the hab check on here. If he doesn't know either, it'd be something to ask on collection, but I would imagine it's a tank heater. It will say that in the paperwork. You should have a little diagram telling you what they all do, and that it will be in there. But anyway, yeah, there you go. Got a clock on the right hand side just here as well, and then that's really the control panel area. Pretty straightforward and easy. So on the right hand side of that, at the top, we have got your TV satellite controller. So this is the satellite dish on the roof. So if I press this little button here, it will basically just tell the satellite to turn itself on. And then you can press up or down here. I'm going to turn it off because we're inside and I don't know how close it is to the ceiling, to the wooden posts up there in the ceiling. So I'm not going to actually lift it up. But basically what you need to do, turn your power on and it will try and select Astra 2 just here. It says 28, but that should be the one that it will try and select. So it will try and connect onto that. It will just do it by itself. And then if you want to turn it up and down, as in if you want to put it back down again or lift it back up again manually, you can do it with these two little switches here. On that same note, inside this cupboard over here, you have got the actual box for it. And when I say box for it, I mean the actual sort of the brain of the satellite is this box here. So the actual controller over there is just sort of telling it what to do, but this is actually the brains of it. So if you have any problems in the future, obviously you can give us a shout with any problem, but it's more than likely going to be something related to that box there than the one up the front. I'm just going to wipe the screen off a little bit. So below that, we've got your Truma iNet Ready system. So this is your heating and hot water from this one sort of digital screen here. So this is all very, very straightforward if you know how to use it. And I say that because it's one of those things where once you've used it a couple of times, you'll be like, oh, that makes total sense. But until you've done it a couple of times, it can be a little bit tricky to get your head around. So when you press this button here in the middle, I'll just zoom in a little bit. Sorry, it's kind of, there you go, that's better. So all I did there is I pressed this button here in the middle and brought the screen on. So this is our menu screen. All you need to do to select one of these buttons, so you've got heating, hot water, energy selector, and fan speed. So if you want to select one of those, you just literally hover over it and we'll click on this one here first. So this is our heating, and I'm just going to turn the temperature up to higher than it is inside the vehicle. So let's just select 24, for example. So now that I've selected that, you can see that we've got the gas bottle symbol up here and we've got the fan symbol up here. So that's telling us that the gas is working on the boiler and it's working on low fan. The next one over is our hot water, and I can select 40, 60 or boost on that one. And that is assuming that we've already put water inside the boiler and we've checked that, which I'll show you how to do in a minute. So for the time being, because I know there's no water in the van at all, I'm going to leave that one off. Okay. The next one over, our gas or electric symbol. It's going to give us the option of using it on gas, mix 1 or mix 2, which is a mixture of gas and electric, or electric 1, electric 2. So electric 1 and electric 2 is if you're hooked up on the mains and you only want to use the electric hookup's power to get the van warm or the water hot. Okay, so if you haven't got any gas and you've got the electric hookup plugged in, that's really the only time that you would use electric 1 or 2. Otherwise, if you have got the gas on, I would always recommend to just use it on gas because it stops anything from getting clogged up. But yeah, so heating, hot water, energy selector, and then we've got over on the right here, we've got our fan speed, eco or high. If I turn the heating off, so go all the way back round to off there, everything above the little black line there has now gone off. So if there's nothing above that black line, it means that the boiler is 100% not doing anything at all. Now that I've got nothing on, if I go over to the fan setting here, I can press vent and then turn the number up 0 to 10. And what that'll do is it'll give us this other little symbol up here, and it will basically start pumping cool air around through the vents. So what it does is it uses the fan inside the boiler to just pump around air. So it doesn't use any heating, it just literally pumps around the cool air. So that's what that symbol there means. So if I go back over to this one now, turn it off, you can just about hear that was just going to start up, and now it's going off. So that is all there is to it. The rest of it there, you've got some timers that you can set. You can set the time on the actual screen itself, and then you've got your settings, which you do not need to go through. It doesn't, you know, there's nothing on there that you need to know about really. But yeah, so that's your heating and hot water system. That's the Truma iNet Ready. Okay, so from there we've got the 3-burner hob up the top just here. Above that you have got the extractor fan, which you can have blowing in or blowing out. You've got the light on here as well. And then we've got some storage up above here. So I'm assuming, you know, this is going to be where your kind of food bits are going to go, just above there. So you've got your 3-burner hob. Now you will need an igniter of some sorts to light any 3 of these up. There's no ignition on the top of this cooking system. Over on the right, if you actually want to use any of those 3, you've got the actual 3 dials here. Okay, so you've got bottom left, top right. And that is just literally push in and round to the left to allow the gas through. To the left of them, just here, we've got your gas isolators. So if you thought you had a problem with a gas appliance, you can isolate the gas from individual appliances from here. Now, every motorhome has these. It's just that you can they're a lot more accessible on here. So if I just run you through what each one is, just by the symbols, you've got the oven and grill, 3-burner hob, fridge, and boiler. So to isolate them, twist it 90 degrees like that. And that is all you need to do. Now, I will just mention as well, like I always mention, isolating all the appliances when you get out the van every single time is not something that you have to do, and isn't something that I would recommend doing either. Turning the gas bottle off in the locker outside is the best way to isolate the gas from the van. So if you're getting out the van to lock it up and leave it for however long you like, turn the bottle off in the locker. You do not have to worry about these. The only reason that you would ever need to use these is, well, 2 reasons. If I was going through and doing a habitation check and I found that there was a gas leak, I would isolate all of these and then turn them on and off one by one so that we can see where the leak's coming from. The only other reason that you would need to do it is if you thought that, for example, let's say you're on holiday and you think you can smell gas coming from the cooker. You can isolate the gas from the cooker and only the cooker, and then carry on with your holiday, not worry about it, and then, you know, give us a shout when you get back or whatever. So, as I say, you really, really don't need to use that every time you stop and get out of the van. It's not necessary. But I just say that because I've seen it lots and lots of times where I'll get into a van with somebody and they've got all of the gas isolators off, and they say, oh, well, I do that every time. All it does is stop the gas flow getting to your appliances and makes it more and more difficult to get the gas to go back through to them. So it's not something that I recommend. Anyway, to the left of that, we've got the 3-way Dometic fridge. Now, this is an AES fridge, and AES stands for Automatic Energy Selecting, or Automatic Energy Selector. And all it means is that you've got the option of this little A button here. So when I press on the A button, it will automatically select one of the three energies for me, depending on what is the most efficient. So at the moment, I've got the electric hookup plugged in and I've got the gas on. So now that I've selected A, it's automatically selected the mains, the hookup. So the reason it's done that is because really on the fridges, the mains is the most efficient way to get it cold. If you've got the hookup plugged in, the power's already there, you might as well use it. So that'll take about 2 or 3 hours to get the fridge nice and cold, and that's that. If I didn't have the electric hookup plugged in, what it would do when I select A, it would try and use the electric hookup, realise there's no power there, and then it would try the gas. Okay, so if I turn off the A now, it will stay on mains. Well, I'll turn it off by choosing a different one. So if I wanted to change this now from mains to gas, I would just press the gas button there, and the fridge has automatically lit the gas up. Okay, so the mains and the gas just here are the only two ways that will actually get the fridge cold from warm. The 12 volt function here is only for when your engine is actually running, and all it actually does is hold the temperature inside the fridge whilst you're on the move. So you have to make sure that you pre-cool the fridge before you leave, and then literally just use this 12 volt one here for whilst you're driving. If for what, you know, for example, let's just say we've come out to the van in the morning and we're going to go on holiday in an hour. All right. Now that's a bit unrealistic, but if we come out to the van in the morning, we're going away in an hour. If you start the engine up and select 12 volt here and leave it running for an hour, this fridge is going to be tepid at best. All right. So for lack of a better way of describing it, that's the way it's going to work. You're not going to get any real sort of cooling inside the fridge just by using the 12 volt. It's a little bit unrealistic as well, because obviously you don't really want to have your engine running for an hour either. So the idea behind it is, let's just say, for example, again, you're going to go away on holiday tomorrow morning. I would recommend, if you can have a hookup cable plugged into the van overnight before you leave, that is the ideal situation, because then you can have your batteries all completely 100% before you leave. You can leave the fridge on the mains overnight, and that makes it super cold overnight. If you don't have the option of having that plugged in overnight, it's not a problem. I would recommend, however, to get to the van at least 2 or 3 hours before you leave, and just select the gas just here and leave it ticking over on gas for a couple of hours at least before you leave. Because even if you leave it on the gas or the mains for an hour, you're still not going to be completely cold. It will still take a good couple of hours to get completely cold. But as I say, you can leave it on A and it should automatically select each one of these for you, or just do them manually. It's straightforward. Over on the right, you've got your temperature selector. And then this last little button here doesn't actually do anything when you press it, but it is your fault code indicator. So if you've got a fault code, if I show you what a fault code looks like, if I try and select 12 volt, eventually it should realise there's no 12 volt power there. Well, because I've had it lit up on gas for a little while, it probably thinks it's already hot. But anyway, after a little while of the engine not being running, the 12 volt function will start to give you a fault code. And then, but if you have a fault code going on some other function and you don't understand why, you can just have a little look up what the fault code's telling you. It'll flash a certain amount of times. And then you'll be able to work out what the problem is. But anyway, that's more sort of for our, habitation check and sort of stuff that we do, really. Anyway, get that boring stuff out of the way. So right behind me in the bathroom, you've got a slightly unusual sort of layout in here for the bathroom. So you've got this moving sink. So when I push on this little button here, it releases the sink and then allows you to completely move this entire unit. So the idea of that is that you would pull this up here and have it in the shower slot, pull this unit over, and then you've got your shower unit inside there. So this would come all the way around here, and then you can get in there. It makes a really nice big showery area. So yeah, I very rarely actually run through anything in here because it's literally just hot and cold tap. That's it. The light switch for in here is just here inside the door. The toilet is the bit that I only normally run through because, you know, if you've not used one of these Thetford toilets before, you probably don't know how to. So basically, you've got a blue button at the back just there. And as long as you've got some water in your fresh tank, you'll be able to use that. So at the moment, I haven't got a single bit of water in the fresh tank. So it's not pumping anything through because there's nothing there to pump through. Little grey handle just here opens up the flap just here and drains whatever's inside the bowl here into the cassette, and then make sure that you pull this back again when you're done. So the last thing I need to explain to you is about the boiler. Now, the boiler itself is probably the most fragile and expensive part of the entire motorhome, especially, you know, talking about the appliances and things anyway. So the reason it's so important to make sure that the boiler is full before you use it or empty before winter, that's the two big sort of things that you need to remember about that. The reason for that is if the water inside the boiler freezes up for the winter, it'll expand and all the little pipes and bits and pieces apart that are to do with the boiler will break or give you leaks. Okay, so you know, if you let your boiler freeze up over winter, you're going to be buying a new boiler in the summer. So that's kind of the idea behind it. So that's really important to make sure of. I'll show you where the boiler drain is just down there in a minute. But the other thing is making sure that the boiler is full before you use it. Okay, so that's, you can use the heating separately. That's fine. Like I did a minute ago, you can just use the heating on its own. But if the boiler is empty of water and you try and light the water up or light the boiler up and try and get the water hot there on the screen and there's no water inside of it, it's going to overheat. Okay, so to stop it from doing that and to make sure that we know that there's water inside the boiler for sure, if we come over here, it might be a little bit dark, but I'm going to try my best to show you. Down here in this little cupboard, we've got this funny looking little black unit. Now, what this does, this is the boiler drain off point. This is an automatic drain off point as well. But basically, on the back, just here, you probably can't see it on the video. No. But on the back just here, there's a little circular blue button. Now, at the moment, it's sticking out because when we're doing the habitation check, we've drained the boiler out so that it doesn't freeze up because it's getting quite cold. So we've winterized it by doing this. If we want to close this back up again and fill the boiler back up, all we need to do is twist this little valve here at the top so that it's facing this way, and then push the little blue button in. So now that we've got this little button here, or this little gauge, if you like, front to back on the motorhome, and the button at the back is pushed in and flush with the unit, we can then go ahead and fill the boiler back up because this drain is now closed. If I want to drain the water out from the boiler, I twist this back open, and now that I've done that, the little button is now pushing out again. So I'm going to leave that open actually now, just so that it stays open for the winter, just in case you aren't going to use it. But when you want to fill the boiler back up again, which is something that I sometimes forget to mention, when you want to use the boiler again, you basically do what I just did a minute ago, twist that valve at the top there so that it's facing front to back to the motorhome and push your blue button in. Then you come up to the control panel, make sure that you've got some water in the tank, which is by pressing that button just there and seeing that this little gauge on the left hand side is up above 0. Then all you need to do is come over to the sink here, turn the tap to the hot side, which is always the left, and then open up the tap. Now you can hear the water pump kicking in and sounding really loud because it's not actually got any water around it. So it's just running and there's not actually got anything there to draw through. So that's why it sounds like that. If the water tank was full of water and you pulled that tap up, the pump is going to sound completely different and it'd be much quieter because it's actually drawing water through it. But basically, all you need to do when you want to try and fill the boiler back up, close off the valve like I've shown you there. Make sure you've got water in the tank, and then draw the water through on the hot side of the tap. Now what will happen is, whilst the boiler's filling itself back up again, you won't get any water coming through this tap. You'll get coughing and spluttering, and it might sort of, you know, get a few other bits wet a little bit, not much, but you know, it'll cough and splutter for a little bit, maybe a minute or two, and then it will start coming through the tap really nice and clearly. As soon as the water starts coming back through the tap nice and clearly, you can turn the tap off and go ahead and use the boiler. Because if you have water coming through nice and steady on the sink just here on the hot side of the tap, it means for an absolute fact that the boiler is full. So the boiler is actually first in line for the water on the hot side of the system. So if the boiler isn't full, you're not going to get water coming through that tap. So that's how you sort of double check that it's definitely full. Just make sure that you've got water coming through the hot side nice and clearly, and that's it. That's your proof. So I don't think there's anything else for me to run through really. Pretty sure I've covered everything. If there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you want going over again, just give us a shout. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.